What's up? Always something.
Okay, we are live. Hello, all. Jace here. Um, here once again with Jim. Say hello, Jim.
Good evening, everyone. Uh, it has been very cold where we live. I would have to say that much. That's been the most noticeable thing. Winter has finally arrived, and everybody's finally pulling out their cold weather things. Have you had an opportunity to put lights on the house over there, Jace?
I have not. I haven't put light. We didn't put lights up last year either. I. It really just depends on whether or not my son wants to get there and do it. So I can tell y'all right now, I don't mind heights, but I hate ladders. I hate getting up on them, and the older I get, the less willing I am to do it. So I don't know if we're going to put lights up or not. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of tested the lights today. It got closer to game time tonight, and wasn't able to get up there because it was getting dark. And yeah, it would have been a rushed idea. So it probably been a bad idea to try and fly out there and do it. Of course, it was getting colder too, and I was like, it's supposed to be the same weather the next day, so I'll just wait till then. So if I don't get them done tomorrow, I don't think they're going to get done before then. And I tell my kids, you're more than willing to hop there anytime you want. I never said no one can put the lights on the house but me. I never put a restriction on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, my son. My son usually don't mind. He don't mind getting up there and doing it. But I don't know. I got pretty severely sloped roof, and so it's unstable footing. And like I said, I can high places don't bother me, but unstable footing and a high place, I'm just it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it for me.
But I honestly think we've moved into a new realm, though. Even when my dad was getting older, he always put lights in the house, and when I think I was about 12, I took it over and I put lights in the house. But when he got older and we all got older, and he had his own place, and I was like, Dad, don't we get up there on that ladder putting them lights in that house? Like, get a tree or something outside, or decorate outline the driveway, or put embellishments in the yard like those reindeer and all those different things you can put in the yard, inflatables and such.
Yeah, and that's what we will do. I mean, even if we don't do them on the house, we always like do stuff in the yard and in the bushes and things like that. But I don't know that we're going to mess with putting lights up this year. I love it. I love Christmas, but uh, I don't know if it's worth it. Um, all right, all. So tonight, what we decided to kind of have a conversation about um, is government programs. Some of the major government programs, and yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have started this new, or they're going to start this DOGE program where basically they're going to go in at Trump's behest and clean up government agencies, cut costs, cut a lot of positions. You know, um, when Musk went into took over Twitter, he fired what was it, 75%, I believe, of the staff. Vivek was famous when he was on the running for president and talking about he wanted to do away with the FBI or cut 75% of them. So they both have a history of either doing or claiming to do some serious cutbacks on spending, and that's what they're going to do for Donald Trump is to go in and clean up a lot of these government agencies to try to cut costs. And that's kind of what we were wanting to talk about tonight was just even beyond the Doge program, um, some of the some of the larger, more intrusive government programs. Do we need them? Do we need them as they currently stand? Um, are there places to cut? Things like that. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. So, Jim, is there one you kind of want to start with?
Well, I believe that the my favorite of those, one of the ones that like industry and when especially these days would have to be the EPA. Always really been in everybody's topic, and that's the Environmental Protection Agency. They do have very good qualities about them, and they do things that are very good for everyday Americans that we don't see. Making sure water quality standards is one of them, mitigation of waste. Also, a lot of those things like keeping chicken feces, fecal matter out of floodplains and into rivers, river basins. A lot of things like that. They help fund those programs or give money to the states to do that. But I think my biggest thing with what would encompass it, my problem with all the cleaning house things is that there's a lot of overreach and a lot of political fingers can get into those places and kind of almost twist the arm of those agencies to do their bidding, or you're going to get fired. It's kind of play ball, or you're going home. And I think that's at the root of all of them. There's really a lot of bad things. One, I think that we could get rid of, maybe the Department of Education. That's kind of one I think that, or definitely clean it up. I think it does good stuff, but um, some people like mandatory nutrition, a lot of different, maybe even standardized testing. There's a lot of things that maybe the Department of Education that parents might like to see that's done better, especially if they're able to hold funds prisoner, if you will.
Okay, well, let's start. Let's do one at a time. Let's start back with EPA, and say my because a lot of these in EPA, I think honestly is probably the stickiest one for me. Um, as far as it's hard for me to take a hard line one way or the other with the EPA. Some of the other ones, to me, it's a pretty straightforward, pretty easy fix. Um, EPA one is one though that there's a lot more gray area for me because I do think that the regulations, that the EPA has created have set us back and hamstrung us to such a degree that they are one of the primary drivers in our lack of production within the United States. I mean, the EPA just you can't get a license to do anything. And if you can get a license, it's so freaking expensive because you got to meet all of their regulations that it's not worth doing within the United States. At the same time, though, we all know that if a corporation is left to its own devices, let's say, um, they're going to do they're motivated by nature by the bottom line. They just are. Um, so if they're left to their own devices, they're not going to give a crap what they're doing to the environment. You know, they will just absolutely destroy it if it leads to healthier profit margins. So I don't think you can do away with the EPA, but at the same time, and that's where the EPA in particular gets extremely difficult for me because where do you draw that line? You know, um, you can't let you can't let energy producers just decimate the environment. At the same time, you can't stop them from generating electricity or something to that effect because they're jeopardizing the water habitat of this one type of fish, you know. Um, so I wonder, do you where how do you even draw that line? Uh, that one's tough.
You draw the line at whenever it is farming, whenever it's pretty much going to cause dead zones or it's going to make water for anything. And I pose a question to you, Chase. You know what the most in the environmental science realm, what is the most destructive thing that humans are doing to our planet right now? What is the single most destructive thing that we're doing right now? What is it that humans do? What activity we do that
Oh,
damages the earth the most?
what activity that we do? I honestly
I mean, are we
don't.
talking about combustion engines? Are we just flying too many planes in the air? Are we polluting? Are we putting trash? What do you think would be the one human activity that we are doing as a whole that is contaminating or
If
polluting
it
our planet the most?
if I were gonna take a guess, which it would be a pretty much a guess because this is definitely not my strong suit. I would probably say transportation, probably emissions would be my guess.
And that would be a lot of people's opinion. However, it's mining. Mining is one of the single most destructive things that humans do to anything. First off, in order to mine, if it's on a hilltop or it's flat, there's usually flora or fauna there that has to be removed. So you have to kill all that, get rid of all the biodiversity. You totally just strip it, tear it down, and they don't refill mines back in. There's nothing you can't reclaim that land once it's a mine. It's always a mine. Um, think of all the pollutants to include vehicles that have to drive to export it, destroy it, haul it out, everything, the whole process involved. And then when you mine, if it rains, there's nowhere for any of the possible toxins that have now been exposed through the mining process that will leach into the water systems, which is something that's happened quite often in West Virginia.
Okay, so where are you going with this? Like, are you saying that we should not mine? Is that what you're saying?
It's the maybe profiteering, mining for necessity is a little bit different. You're still doing a horrible thing. However, we're not destroying the earth looking for gold or more silver or you know that's kind of capital gain type mining, exploratory mining, as opposed to mining things that we just need. There's a lot of scrap metal out there that can be repurposed. There's a lot of different recycling things that we do, not in the fashion of some people think, but there's a lot of sustainable things that we can do other than finding new metal and recycling old metal.
Okay. And see, and that's where you know, and that's where you and I may differ on it. But I also think, how do you define necessity? I mean, you can't. In my mind, you can't define necessity because your necessity is going to be very different from my necessity, which is going to be very different from anybody else's definition of necessity. I mean, to me, and the only way I can think of that you can define necessity is market need, which means gold, silver, all of those things. There's still a market need, so it's necessary. Otherwise, I don't know, how do you define necessity?
Well, that would be it. I just can't imagine, and it happens all the time in the world, that you're going to take, let's take this beautiful environment and destroy it to get some gold, and then leave it like that. You destroyed it, it will never go back to being what it was, not for thousands of years. Right? Well, I think it's hundreds. The world's pretty resilient, but you have a crater or a hole or whatever damage you did, the reclamation of the land, it'll never be the same. And I have different organisms live there, a different environment, it's going to change forever. And I think that's where I would say the line is drawn is yes, necessity, things that we need, and we need them. It's just been the easier thing is just go find more as opposed to reducing.
Okay. Um, how do you stop it?
Start with legislation. You have to realize what actually really take a really good look and see how it's effective. Now, the coal thing in the West Virginia, that is a very well known thing that they would do the mountain, clear the top of the mountain off and just strip off the mountain and take it all the way down. And in that process, when it rained, all the chemicals and such that came off that open exposed coal to the environment leached down into the valley and got to the water system and made dead zones for Americans.
So you don't think coal is a necessity? I mean, energy.
Yeah, it's the manner in which you get it and where you choose to do it. Because you're buying land that people find is sold, or you know, uh, I read a John Christian book on it, but it was really good talking about a lot of the coal industry. But things have changed now that those dead zones were caused and the water pollutants in there. Those things, the EPA has come in and those type of operations have changed for the better to where it's not likely to have it. Now they have like sludge ponds and ways to capture and contain the waste that comes from the mining. So things, it's been done smarter. can't ever reclaim the land to what it was before, but there are ways to mitigate the contamination, the harmful factors to the living species on the planet. That's where I think the line is that we shouldn't just do it, just do it.
Well, see, and I think you're maybe you're taking kind of the same stance that our politicians and so many others have taken, in that they've been faced with the same conundrum, right? Of, we don't want to ruin our water, we don't want to harm our animal species. So whenever we're wanting to make these electric vehicles, we can just get those minerals. We can just import it from China. Now China is not going. They have next to no, or so many, South Africa, so many other nations. They have next to no EPA standards. They're doing considerably more damage to the environment, more damage to water systems, more damage to the animal species. But it's not happening in our backyard. So it's somehow more acceptable that we have the need, we're going to obtain the products, but we are obtaining the minerals and the ingredients that we need from other nations to our detriment fiscally.
Yes, you hit a very good point because we as Americans should never become mineral dependent on somebody. The lithium that was just recently found in Arkansas is great. Take a extra mining if you're trying to get it. But have you ever seen a lithium mining field before?
Have I? No.
Pretty pretty interesting. They kind of look like rice paddies. I think in the country, I think it's in Peru or Chile, one of those two countries. Maybe hard to use. Southern South American country that they have those large fields. I think right now they're kind of the largest producer of lithium. China became it, but yeah, I watched the whole video on it, and they have to pretty much leave it out in the sun. It's a very bad process in general just to get the lithium. It totally just destroys everything. You have to look at it sometimes. It's a pretty bad process.
So what? No EVs, no lithium.
Do we need these? Really? I think we can buy, make a cleaner combustion engine or use an alternative fuel that burns cleaner. There's things we can do because, I mean, I like NASCAR, but do we really need to have auto racing? We need it, but it's great to have.
Okay, so in your in your version of the best case scenario, what are we back to a third world globe? I mean, what is your version? What is your version of society, of Western society? Let's say, because if we're what you're ultimately saying, and you even said it because you said the only way to do it, the only way to really police it would be through legislation. Is you're having whatever political party is currently in place dictate virtually every aspect of your life outside of your home and even within your home, because if we started doing some of those, or if we clamp down even further on some of these things, then we're not going to have power for electricity for our homes. We're not going to have gas for our cars. We're For those that have electric vehicles or are big proponents of it, they're not going to have an electric vehicle. I mean, is that what you're proposing?
No, my idea is to do it smarter. How we generate energy, how our system operates, things like that. That is how we can maximize. We can do a lot more with the less energy production. There's so much energy loss, even in transmission lines. There's a lot of energy loss, and there's always talk about making a smarter grid and things like that. Using science and using things in our ears to burn. There are cleaner burning coal factories that are out there that do not create the acidic rain. Um, that stuff's out there. It's just like we're going in a, we have the technology to do the clean stuff. I know there's an expense to it, but it's kind of usually listen to the customer. obviously, if the EPA's goal is to protect the environment, there are some things us Americans can do to change, but it's so hard to get us out of our, all of us have our own unique needs, if you will, that we just can't live without it. And excess and getting anything we want, it kind of it drives that market that you speak of, that we need to get more lithium. Oh my God, there's no thought to what it does to the environment. It's just that, hey, I want it, can we get it?
So you think there should be even more EPA regulations?
No, I believe there's smart EPA regulations.
Well, I mean, but that would mean more.
Well, I can't.
They don't take. I mean, they're not going to just take it away. They're not going to say. I mean, if you're talking about even, there's only going to be more regulation if you're wanting to make what you would call a smarter, system, which I'm sure they do exist. But I'm just saying what you're talking about is even stricter EPA regulations than we currently have.
And it's not necessarily restrictions because I think that's kind of going in the wrong direction. Like, let's stop these guys from producing energy that's polluting. It's more or less if we can generate energy this way, we have the technology to be able to use. Let's say it takes 1,000 pounds of coal to burn X amount of kilowatt hours. Okay, what if we could do it by using a furnace or a spec, by using our technology to produce the same amount of energy with half the amount of coal?
Well, that'd be great.
And,
That'd be great, but it don't exist.
but see, that no, that's not necessarily true. It's about how you are able to harness the energy from things because you know um, that's the same thing with nuclear energy too. You
Well,
control that reaction.
but now we can get into nuclear energy. I'm all for nuclear energy, but
We should be.
huh?
We should be.
Well, there you go. But if there was a way in that they could burn coal, whatever percent you just said, more efficiently, why wouldn't they be doing it?
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's what I'm saying. Use the science, use our technology to find ways to harness our energy in better ways. And I'm not. And yes, it may under our current system, it takes X amount to do this much. But if we were able to figure out a way to use technology to help us maybe create a better furnace or a better way to get latent heat that comes off from that and utilize it to generate something else. There's a lot of smarter ways to do things that,
Right,
just little things. That's all it takes is a little is a lot is an offset in the long run.
right. But that goes back to what I just said. Is we're talking about technologies that don't exist versus what I'm talking about right now are issues and situations that we are currently facing. I mean, it would be, and I'm sure it will. Well, let me say this: what you're talking about, the United States historically has always been the biggest driver in the world with innovation, research, development, invention. I mean, we've always been the driving, well, since what the early 1900s. We've been the driving force in all of those initiatives. We always have been. We are not anymore because we are not producing anything. We are not the producers, so we're not the innovators. So I think those things could be found. There's no doubt some of those better technologies could be found, but there is no incentive for them to find them.
Exactly, because that's part of it. They're out there generating energy to make money, and I understand
Well,
that's
no, well, no, that's not. Hang on, that's not what I was getting at. What I was saying was there's no incentive for them to find them because they are not producing them because we are importing all of them because they have been regulated to death and it is no longer viable for them to produce what is needed here anymore. That's what I meant.
yeah, and the regulatory thing that I'm speaking of is more or less let's have EPA for let's work together to design things better. Let's do things smarter. Let's transmit energy in a better way so that we don't lose. The problem is being able to transmit the energy and the energy it costs to move energy, if you will, or move energy items. If we can eliminate anything in that energy process, that's what we try to do. A smarter furnace, a better type of turbine. I mean, I don't know what it is we can do, but because I'm not astute in those things,
No, no. I mean, neither am I. And that's what I'm saying. But there are people who are smarter than us that could absolutely, you know, create better technologies.
It's like creating a better engine,
Right.
more efficient engine, and that's
Right.
always the big mission is to create a more efficient engine. And this is what I'm talking about. It's like how we can always create a more efficient engine. We can do that with our energy production systems that we have. We can do it better.
But that's what I'm saying though is how do we get to a point because unless you're proposing that we depend on, you know, any other nation in the world to come up with these technologies, which I doubt you're leading down that path, right?
Well, LED lights is like a really big thing too. I was talking with someone today about incandescent bulbs, and I told them the past 20 years how incandescent bulbs are very, very rare. And look how much the energy consumption of 60-watt incandescent bulb used to have. And then it had a lot of heat that it gave off as well. So these LEDs don't give off heat, so there's not that latent energy that's going into your house anymore.
Well, I no. What I'm saying though is if we're going to come up with technologies that make our use of resources better, do you agree that it's probably going to end up having to be America to come up with those technologies?
I definitely believe so because everybody looks to us. I don't. They always have in a way. I don't know if they're going to do that for this quarter, but everybody wants to come on America. I guess we're still that role, but now with being focused on China these days, it's where they fit in the world.
Right. But okay, so and that leads to my question is if in your solution, baked within your solution, we could not plan to and tell me if I'm summarizing this incorrectly, but we could not plan to manufacture or to produce our own resources unless we were finding ways to do it more intelligently, more efficiently, more, more safely, all of those things. So within that, it would have to be America that's creating or inventing these new technologies, which means that it would have to be America producing the resources. Otherwise, the producers have no incentive to improve their product. So how do we get it so that we are no longer primarily importing our resources? How do we get it to where we are no longer importing everything? Because that's the first link in that chain is we have got to be the major producer, right?
Absolutely. I believe in energy independence and even everybody felt it. Americans noticed it. It was oil. In oil, oil, gasoline, always was at the pump. That's always one of the biggest things. And when it comes to things like that, that's because we're producing energy. Producing energy is very important. That energy independence just allows a lot of things to just make our whole life a lot better. And you're right, we would have to be producing energy and then have so much of it. Now we don't want to waste it. Let's do it better. And I think you may be right. Something has to move us in that direction. I hope it's not out of need and necessity because it's kind of like we're going to run out of coal. They always said that we're going to run out of oil for a very long time. Um, and that day was always, I think, the last time when I was in school was 2050 was when we were out of oil, no more oil, so we were for oil. That would drive us to have to figure out a way to either use methane or natural gas or some other type of energy instead of oil.
Right. But what I'm saying though is in the here and now to start to correct this process here and now. Like let's use lithium as an example. I only see if I'm following your logic through the the reason it's not being done here is because regulations basically because of what you described and guys I'm not an expert on this. I'm this probably isn't 100% accurate, but um, the reason it's not being done here is because of the damage that it does to the environment. So we're letting China and South Africa and Peru, we're letting them ruin their environments, right? We don't have the better technologies, or at least it's not cost beneficial to employ them if we do have them. Otherwise, we would be doing it. Where the regulations as they stand currently make it almost impossible. It basically is impossible because even if you wanted to mine the resources here, they won't give you the licensing to do it. So you have to import it. So what do we do? Do we just? I mean, to me, it just makes more sense that we've got to do away with all these regulations that are keeping us from getting the licensing necessary to do it here ourselves. That is going to mean, though, that we are going to be mining here. And I don't doubt all the things you're saying about mining and the impact it has and all those things. Like, I don't doubt that. But I would much rather have it done here where at least we care about our environment, we care about what's going on, we care about our animal species than somewhere else where we're paying twice as much to get it from them and they couldn't care less as long as they're making a profit.
Yeah. If we use the energy that we have here and figure out how to use what we have acceptable to us that suits our needs, then that would kind of be it, right? And that's like, hey, we have oil here and just keep using oil. We keep finding oil more and more in all over the place in the world. Just keep oil, but it's always been in science to find the best engine. Another one is the best battery. And unfortunately, lithium right now is the best technology right now that we know about, electron transfer. And it's a slippery slope. I will say that because it's kind of with this one. It's kind of what how do you pick and choose the different things and like you said, innovation. But yeah, in order to do this, you're right. I mean, in order to be producing energy, you have to mine it here. You have to try to do it. There's a really good flip flop on both sides, in my opinion. Because I feel that it's a slippery slope either way you look at it. Because if you need it, I think that we should support our planet in the way that Yeah, it was. So, how long was that going there, Jace?